Welcome to Allies or Enemies. I'm Jess.
And I am Sean, and today we are talking about UKGE.
And we just got back from 4 days of playing games, so let's get right to it.
So we played a ton of stuff at UKGE, and I came back with a little bit of a cold, so if I'm sounding a little bit stuffed, that is why. But we got so much stuff to talk about that we're gonna have to break them into a few different sections. So we're gonna start off with the stuff that we actually got to demo. Then we've got a few behind the scenes little sneak peeks that we got. And then we're also gonna talk about a bunch of other games we saw but didn't always have a chance to play. So let's start off with the ones that we actually played.
So the first one is Looot, which is loot with an extra O. And this is a game I had a chance to play and you didn't. And in Looot, you are building a Viking fjord. And how you're doing that is you are putting your Vikings on a shared board to collect your tiles. And there's a bit of an area control mechanism going on to get bonus tiles. But I really liked how you could get a big combo and collect 3 tiles that you could put at once. And it's one I definitely want to play again.
And I did miss out on that one, but one I did not miss out on was Dune, War of Arrakis. And this is a game I didn't even know that I wanted until I played it. This is one we were looking for, and then I saw it, and it was giant, and it had these awesome sandworms, and I was like, well, we gotta play this. And it turns out it is from the dude who made War of the Ring, or the team that made War of the Ring. I'm not sure who made War of the Ring, but they also made this. And it does have a lot of the same DNA, but it feels really streamlined. And we like War of the Ring, but it's that same sort of like super thematic. Everything's really thematic. Even how we learned the game, because there was this huge table and we both had a demo on our side who was kind of like being our mentat and like whispering instructions to us. It was really fun. And we only got to play 1 round, but I really want to use those sandworms again. And there's just so many fun toys in this one. This is one I definitely would play again.
Another one that I only got to play 1 round of is Shackleton's Base, A Journey to the Moon. And you are competing space agencies, you're building out your bases on the moon, and you're trying to get support from the different corporations. There are a possible of 5 corporations, but only 3 are ever included in each game. And how you get points from them is completely different. So some of them you have to collect resources and trade it in a bit like a contract. Another one had like a little astronaut that you were putting in your base. So I just found it really interesting how differently the different corporations worked and how to try and do all of them at once.
Yeah, and I just saw this one. In fact, this is like the first I'm hearing about it, and it does sound, I love anything space. Another one that really surprised me was Clash of the Magic Schools. And so this was Uwe Rosenberg and I believe another designer as well. I'm not sure who, but it'll be on the screen right now. And this is like a 2-player game where you're building stuff on your side and you both have stuff on your side. So this is a bit of like a Shot and Totten, Lost Cities, like that kind of vibe. But it's got these cool spells that you can do. So you're putting these students down, and when you got 3 of one kind of student, you can cast a spell on the other side. And you're trying to get like these numbers, I'm not sure what they represent, but you got to get so many on your side before they get so many on their side. And so it's this cutthroat thing with these spells and these combos. And we just played it because it was like open, and it ended up being a real surprise to me.
Another one we played was one we had it booked in, and that is Yonder. And so this is by the same designer and artist as the person who did Streets and Villagers, but this is a bit of a bigger game in terms of having like an actual large board. It is a worker placement game. I'd say it's a gateway game. It was pretty light, but the fantasy theme was really cool, and like the goblin meeples and the little elf meeples, they looked great.
Yeah, and it had this neat thing where you've got a whole bunch of different kinds of meeples, and you can get different meeples and you can put them out, and it reminds me of a game, and I cannot put my finger on what game it was. So if you look at this and you think, oh, that looks like this, please put it in the comments, because it is driving me insane. Another one is World Order, and if Yonder is a bit of a gateway game, World Order is as far from that as you can get. This is from the team who made Hegemony, which was my favorite game of last year, and it just looks fantastic. And we played 1 round, or no, we played 2 rounds of this one, and this one you're 4 major world powers, and you're just trying to, like, I don't know, influence the world to your side of things. And there are different ways you can do it. You can do it with diplomacy, you can do it with economy, or you can do it with like military power and strength and just kind of scaring the other nations. And it's got some of the stuff from Hegemony, but it's also quite a different game. And I think a little bit freer in what you can do, still a bit asymmetric, but more of a nudge than like a full push, even though I like, that's not a knock on Hegemony, but this is one, this is like a day one for me. This is like a guarantee.
Another one is Moving Wild. And so Moving Wild is a re-implementation of Zuli done by Oink Games. And we love Zuli, so I was quite curious to see how it was. And at the surface, it feels pretty similar because you are still drafting your habitats, drafting your animals, drafting the improvements, all of that. But one of the key differences is you get a -2 for each animal that you can't place and for each habitat that isn't completely full. So I think that really helps to like negate the always taking the habitat strategy that we always found ourselves falling into. So it was really interesting to play this very similar but small tweak different version.
Yeah, and I like the art a lot. I like the art in Zuli, but this art it looks really, really cool. One I got to play and you didn't. You've had so many you got to play and I didn't, but one I got to play is Arcs, and so this is the new one from Leader Games, and it's basically it's a big 4X game. It's a big board. You're doing all the normal kind of 4X-y stuff. It's a little bit less asymmetric than I'm used to with Leader Games, but it's got this kind of it's like a 3-act mini campaign. So you play the game over these 3 acts, and I didn't get a good sense of that yet because, like a lot of these, we only got to play a couple of rounds. But I'm told from other people I talked to that really when you play those 3 acts, that's where it shines. So I would be interested to play that again.
Another one is Middle Ages, and Middle Ages is a tile placement game, and the drafting works like King Domino, where if you are the first to draft your tile that has maybe a lesser value, you then get first choice for the next row. But you're able to build an engine with the tiles that you're placing, and it's a little bit interactive as well, so you have to build a little bit of defense or try and stop other people from attacking you too. And Sean, poor Sean, he lost so many tiles.
King Domino, I think, is famously like a fairly chill game, and this, when I see the board, I think, oh, it's going to be King Domino. This is so mean. This is such a mean game where you're attacking and smashing and everyone's attacking me. It was still fun, but I think I got doubled by the next lowest person, and Jess had so much that at the end of the game, the other 2 players were like, you know what, you just win. We don't need to count it up. She's such a bully. And then we've got a few games that we actually got to play that were like backstage games. These are games, these are like, they're not hush hush, because they were like, please do take photos and tell people about them. So they're the opposite of hush hush. But one of them was this game from Rock Manor Games, and it is this big space game, and it has got, this feels the most like a Star Trek game that I have played, because you're exploring the galaxy, you're going to all these different planets, you're building up your crew have like really the Star Trek specialties. So there's the person who's flying the ship, there's the person in engineering, there's the person doing the sensors, as they say in
Yes.
Star Trek. But there's not really fighting in it. You've got other ships trying to get you. You got like, they're not called this, but the Romulans, the Klingons who are shooting at you all the time. But you're just trying to explore and just check out the galaxy. And it was, when we first looked at it, we both thought, I don't know if we're into this sort of game. And then we played it and we're like, oh, this is actually a lot closer to the sort of game that we are into. So yeah, it was a pleasant surprise.
Another one that we got a sneak peek of not a hush hush, a telltale maybe, is Black Forest. So this was a developer, somebody from Furorland was showing us to it, and it's going to be an Essen release. And this is an Uwe Rosenberg game. And so unsurprisingly, there is a little bit of like farming and clearing of forest and things. But what was really interesting is it had this mechanism with the resources on your wheel, and as you kind of cleared your wheel and it moved, your amount of resources shifted. And he said that that's a little bit similar in Glass Road, which is one that we hadn't played before. But between that and then the shared village, which determines your actions for what you can do, I found it really interesting.
Yeah, it felt a lot different. It's Uwe Rosenberg with another designer as well. But the actual board where you move, that felt way different from what I've at least seen in another Uwe Rosenberg game, and kind of the mix of that and that wheel and the other board where you're like building out your forest. This one, this one was very, very cool. This is going to be one of the kind of higher echelon Uwe Rosenberg games, I think, and that is saying a lot. So I'm excited to play this one in Essen. And then the last one that isn't out yet that I got a chance to play is Last Week of Summer. And I got to play this with, I was very lucky. I had a couple of groups playing this with me. It was just super fun. And let's be honest, that is just a plug for my own game. But it was fun to play it with a few different folks. And it seemed to go okay.
Then there were a bunch of games that we wanted to play that we got told about. So we got a bit of an overview, but not an opportunity to sit down and play. And so one of those is Terminus. And so that was at the Inside Up booth. And you're building out a subway system. And it looks cool. We love subway stuff, but that's as much as we got, really. All the slots were full.
Well, I overheard a little bit of the explanation, saw a few turns of this as well, just a smidge of it, but it looks a lot heavier than I'm used to from Inside Up. And Inside Up, they did Earth, obviously, last year, which was enormous and such a great game too. But this looks like they're going for an even heavier, bigger experience, and I'm really curious about that. Another one we did not get to play but heard great things about was Ironwood, which is a 2-player game from Mindclash. And Mindclash is one of my absolute favorite studios. I love their stuff. Anachrony, one of my all-time favorite games. Trickarian's terrific. And so I'm always interested in what they're doing. And I just watched like a smidge as we kind of walked by, and I was just like, oh, I wish I was one of them. But I heard a lot of good things.
Another one is one we had on our list that we kept trying to play, but it was so popular, and that's Cities. And that is a game designed by Phil Walker Harding. And so it is a tile placement game, but when you draft your tile, you're also getting, it looked like a few bits that go along with that, like a smaller tile or a building tile. And you're only putting 9 of them down. So I think it plays quickly. But every time there's always like 4 people waiting for the next one.
Yeah, and I understand there's a bunch of different cities that it connects to as well. It's all these like real world, it's kind of the ones you'd expect, like New York, London, Paris. It's like these real world cities that I don't know we don't know enough about this game, but I really want to know more about it. Another one that we learned some about and I was really interested in is SETI. And so SETI, if you've seen, it's what the movie Contact was all about, right? Am I right about that?
Yeah, it's a search for extraterrestrial life.
Yeah. And so you're sending out these like radio waves, whatever it is, trying to contact aliens. And it's based on real science, and it's awesome because it's got this board with these different rings, and your big dish is on one of those rings. So you're moving that, and you're moving the Earth, and it's pointing at these different planets and different moons, and it's got all this just really cool space stuff. It's got all these moons and all these planets, and it's got these different, like what you're actually making contact with. It's got a bunch of them. You don't know what they are. There's 2 that are face down, and they get flipped over once you make contact with them, and it's going to be totally different, and that's going to change how the game plays too. And I wish that we had time to just camp out and play this one, but we didn't get to play it, but I'm excited to play it at Essen.
The next one is one that I got an overview of, and that's Lord of the Rings, The Duel. And this is very much like Seven Wonders Duel. It has the same like pyramid card structure that you're drafting, and a lot of the similar types of cards. But one of the things I really liked is when you get a ring card, you can move like your hobbits closer to Mordor, or if you're the bad guys, you move them closer to the hobbits. So it's a little bit of a chase system instead of the armies, which I think worked really well. And there's a few other little key tweaks that makes me really want to play this at least.
Yeah, and I love Seven Wonders Duel, especially with the expansion. So I'm wondering if this kind of feels like it's got a little bit of like, you know, a little bit extra from just base 7 wonders as well. Another one is Luthier, which is the new one, or Luthier, I'm not sure how to say it, but it's the new one from Paverson Games, who last year put out Distilled, which was quite the big hit, and I didn't actually get a chance to play that one, but a lot of people told me that it really tied into the theme, and I can really see that with this one. And the theme's super cool, because you're making instruments for famous classical musicians. So you got folks like Mozart and Beethoven. Really that's kind of where my knowledge ends, but you're making them different instruments, and you're helping them put on performances. And there's this cool mechanic where they like get annoyed at you if you don't get like stuff done for them in time. So you gotta keep getting stuff done as they just keep growing more and more annoyed, which I really like. From what I know about Beethoven in that documentary where he helps the kids with their high school project.
That's excellent adventure.
From what I know about him in that, he can get quite upset. So it looked really neat, and it looked like it connects a bunch of different mechanics to like a ton of different mechanisms on this big shared board, and how you're putting out your workers as well, where they are you've got like this kind of secret numbers on them, and you're putting them onto different spots, and then you're seeing who's got priority. From not having played it, you can tell I was super interested in it, so I learned a lot about it, but we didn't get to play this one, and I'm keen to play this at Essen.
It does have art by Vincent Dutrait, so It looks great as well.
And that is it. And I know that was a lot of stuff, and if you can believe it, that was our edited down list. There was so much that we played, and there was stuff as well that we didn't really cover here because we're going to be covering it in other videos soon. So stuff like this Set a Watch, Harmonies, Mycelia, we got Windmill Valley. I'm very happy that I did these in increasing size, and all of these we're going to be reviewing very soon on the channel too, as well as a bunch of other stuff.
But thank you so much for watching. If you went to UKGE and there's a game that we didn't talk about that really caught your eye, or you got a chance to play, please let us know in the comments. Or even if you didn't go, some new releases that you have your eye on, we would love to hear about them. And as usual, please like, subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you next time for another game.